Okay, so I got the video ended and cut off in the middle of number 26. So where we left off, we had looked at our table, we had figured out change in Y over change in X, and had gotten to our unit rate of $1.75 per serving. Okay, now we need to do, so we've done the unit rate now we need to do the equation. So when we're talking equations all right, they come in the form of y equals mx, okay? M is going to be our slope or rate of change. Okay, so to be able to do our equation is simply y equals 1.75x, because x equals the number of servings, y represents the total cost. Now let's go ahead and look at number 27. We have AT&T is offering several different data plans. All the plans, they charge the same rate per text. Okay, so Austin chose the plan that gave 150 texts for $52.50. Fill in the missing values in the table. Basing the rate provided. Write an equation that represents the price for the number of texts. So we need to figure out the unit rate, and then we also need to figure out the equation. Okay, so when we look at the information that we are provided, so we have number of texts, that's going to be our X, and then the price for the plan is going to be our Y. When we're talking about rate, we're always going to have that change in, or we're going to have our Y, our price, over the X, the number of texts. So with the information that we're given, we know that he is paying $52.50 for 150 texts. And then when we figure that out, each text is going to equal 35 cents per text. So our unit rate is 35 cents per text. Okay, now our equation, just like we did before, we're going to have it in that y equals mx. So we have y equals 0.35x. Okay, now we're going to take that equation and it's going to help us fill in our table. So for our price, with filling in our table, if we know 0.35 times 75, that's going to give us what we need to put in our table. So that's going to tell us that for 75 texts, it's going to cost $26.25. If we look at using our formula, 35 cents for 100 texts. Well, 35 cents times 100, that's going to equal $35. Okay. Now, 125 texts. We're still going to use our equation. 0.35 times 125. Okay. So, we figure that out, and that tells us that it is $43.75. Okay. Then we need to look at if it's 175 texts. So 0.35 times 175. So we use our formula to figure it out, and that tells us that it equals $61.25. And then lastly, if we have 0.35 times 200 texts. And so, when we figure that out, it lets us know that it is going to cost $70 for 200 texts. Okay, looking at number 28, we know that Best Buy Appliance Repair, they are charging $55 per hour to be able to do a repair. They give us the equation C equals 55H. This is the same thing as if it were written in a Y equals MX format. Okay, it's just that in this case we're using H and C. Okay, C is the total charge of the repairs. Okay, the cost. and H is the number of hours that the repairman works. So we're going to use our equation to be able to fill in our table. So we have 55 times 2, so that would be 110. Then we have 55 times 4. That gives us 220. We have 55 times 6. And so that gives us 330. And we have 55 times 8. That gives us 440. And we have 55 times 10. It's going to give us 550. Guys, all we're doing is taking our equation and plug it in. We have to plug each H into the equation. Okay, so now we've completed the table. Now we need to complete the graph. Okay, so we're going to plot our points. Okay, so for 2 hours, it's going to cost $110. So it's going to be just above the 100. For 4 hours, it's going to be $330. So right about here. I'm sorry, for 4 hours, nope, I did that one wrong. Okay, need to back up. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. For 4 hours, it was $220. So about here. Okay, for 6 hours, then it was $330. So now we're up here. 8 hours, we're at $440. So up close to $450. Okay, 10 is all the way up off the graph. If we were graphing it, it would be, you know, like way up there. And then we just draw our line. Okay, and then there is our graph. Okay, so we are looking at this graph, and we need to be able to find her rate of change, or the slope. And then we need to explain what the rate of change represents. So when we look at so first let's go ahead and find our slope. We can pick any points on our graph to be able to use. When we're finding slope from a graph, we do rise over run. Okay, so I'm going to pick 2 points. I'm going to pick points that are easy to be able to see and measure. Okay, so I'm going to pick these 2 points. Okay. So right here at 0, and then I'm going to do rise. Okay, so I have to rise, so 1, 2, 3. However, I have to be careful because when I look at my measures, it's 100, 200, 300. So my rise is really 300, and then the run, okay, I'm counting over 1, 2, 3 physical spaces, but again, looking at my unit, 2, 4, 6. So it's 2, 4, 6. Is the run. Okay, now I'm not going to leave it that way because that will in fact simplify, and so that will be 50 over 1, or 50. Okay, when we look at our units or our measures here, that tells us that it is miles per hour, or mph. Okay, so now we need to explain what her rate and change represents. So Maria travels 50 miles in each hour. Okay, so we've found the slope and explained. Okay, so now we have 2 people. We have Olivia, and with Olivia we're given our information in an equation, and then we have Stacy, and we're given her information in a graph. And so they are leaving from the same location at the same time. Who would arrive first? So to compare these two, we need to look at their unit rate, or the slope. So with an equation, it's pretty easy to be able to find it, because right here it is. It's 50, okay? And so for Olivia, she's going to be traveling 50 yards per minute. Now, let's look at Stacy. Okay, when we look at Stacy, we're going to pick 2 points. I'm going to pick here to here. And so I rise 50, 100, 150, run 1, 2. And so when I simplify that, that gives me 75 over 1, or 75 yards per minute. Now, comparing those two, because we want to know who's going to get there faster, okay? Well, when I look at Stacy's slope, her unit rate, she is traveling faster. So Stacy's going to get there first because her unit rate is faster. Okay, number 31, we're comparing Hallie and Callie, and we want to know who rode at a faster rate. So we need to first find their unit rate. So for Haley's, we have rise over run. Rise 4, 8, 12 over our run 1, 2, which simplifies to 6 over 1, or 6 miles per hour. We look at Callie's. Hers is right here, okay? So her unit rate is 5 miles per hour, okay? Which rider rode at the faster rate? That would be Hallie. So Hallie is the faster. Okay, now in number 32, we're comparing Kelly and Anna, who gets paid the bigger allowance each week. Okay, that's unit rate. So let's look at Kelly. Okay, so I'm going to pick a point and a point. Okay, rise over run. 5, 10 over 1. So that means that Kelly is earning $10 per week. Now we look at Annie. Okay, here's her unit rate. Annie is making $15 per week. So who is getting the bigger allowance? That would be Annie. And we know that Annie is getting the bigger allowance because her unit rate, $15, is more than 10. Okay, the remainder of the review will be finished up in one last section covering the last few problems.